I want to welcome in Gersson Rosas, President of Basketball Operations of the Minnesota Timberwolves, into our third episode of Game Plan here on Boardroom. I'm your host, Jordan Schultz, and Gersson, we appreciate you taking the time.
Jordan, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
To understand Gersson Rosas, we obviously need to backtrack. So can we just, first of all, I believe I have this right, your dad was an agricultural entrepreneur. Your mom was in PR. You're from Colombia. You immigrate to the States, and you get into basketball. Now, I've also read that at 14, 15 years old, Gersson, you realized that the NBA for you on the court was completely unrealistic. So when did this love of hoops begin? And also, when did the love of the process of developing an organization start?
I appreciate your perspective, Jordan. And I would tell you, I've been very fortunate to come into this country and to have the opportunities that I've been given. But growing up at an early age, I always loved sports. My dad was a big football fan, soccer fan in Colombia. And we came to this country. I was very young, 3 years old. But I've always had sports in my blood, always loved it. Baseball was actually my first love. In Houston, grew up rooting for the Astros and kind of loved studying the game and understanding how not only teams win and compete, but how teams are put together, the team building process. It caught my eye and it caught my attention. And, one of my biggest strengths, Jordan, are being a realist. And even though I love sports, I played any sport you could imagine growing up. At a very early age, when I got involved in basketball, I caught the bug. I loved all sports. Baseball was my first love, but when I got involved in basketball, everything changed. The game, the dynamic way it's played, the international aspect of it, it just overwhelmed me. And at a very early age, I knew, hey, I didn't have the physical tools to be a guy that was going to play in the NBA. I didn't have the talent, but I had a passion, and I identified it at a very early age. That was an industry, an area that I wanted to be involved in long term, and I needed to find my area. Whether that was going to be as a coach or as a scout.
This feels like it could have gone one or two directions. You could have been a head coach, or you could have been a scout, ultimately a president. So walk us through that process.
Yeah, no, we actually have to take a couple steps back. As I mentioned, I wanted to figure out what way to be involved in basketball. I decided to go and study at the University of Houston because, the NBA was there, the Houston Rockets were there. And I really just did anything and everything that you can imagine, Jordan, any internship, any networking, agents, coaches, player development at all level. I was involved to try to learn and to grow and to develop. And I even went to the extent of helping agents, because I speak Spanish fluently, place.
You were translating, yeah,
in Spain or in South America, and kind of found my niche working with players. But as you're coming in, you got to be very versatile. You can't pigeon yourself into anything. So I would help out with on-court workouts. I would help with conversations, whatever the case may be, anything that I could do to get experience. And that led me to an internship with the Houston Rockets coming out of college. And I did that for 2 years, and it was pretty unique because this is early 2000s and internships aren't as sophisticated as they are now. So I was working full time on the corporate side with the team while I interned on the basketball side. So they were long days, but I loved it. I wouldn't have done it differently, just learned a lot. I was around people like Dennis Lindsey, Carol Dawson, Rudy Tomjanovich, and really was cutting my teeth in and learning the league, learning the industry. And I finished 2 years of an internship, Jordan, and I'm like feeling good about myself.
I know Dennis, yes.
I feel like I got my foot in the door, and Dennis, who's been a great mentor of mine, gave me the sit down talk and said, hey, where are we going from here? And I'm thinking, hey, full-time job, let's just get this done. And he's like, you're not ready. You've got to, you need more experience, and you've got to figure out what you want to do. Do you want to coach? Do you want to scout? Where is this going to go? So he gave me the best advice that anybody could have given me, and really said, hey, look, you got to take a step back. You're not ready. So go find a bench anywhere you can and coach, get the experience that you can. So, I was I was a little disappointed because I thought, bam, I'm in the internship. I'm going to be in the NBA for a long time. But it was good for me. It was good for my career. I took a step back. I was an assistant coach at Westbury Christian in Houston and had an unbelievable year there under Greg Glenn. Ray McCallum, as you mentioned, gave me an opportunity to join his staff as a graduate assistant at the University of Houston. And Ray's an unbelievable man. Really enjoyed the time and experience. And I really enjoyed coaching. I enjoyed player development, working with players, helping them get better. But my heart was still thugging, was still thumping around, hey, putting putting a team together, evaluating players, identifying talent. That part of it was what kept me up at night and what made me passionate. So we finished the year there with Houston. Ray McCallum and our staff was let go. And like you said, I didn't know what was going to happen, man. I had just gotten married, just bought a house. I had been very blessed that I had been able to work in high school in Houston, college in Houston, and the NBA at that point as an intern with the Rockets, but didn't know what was going to happen. And late that summer, that was the summer that Rudy Tomjanovich took the Lakers head coaching job. And he took a lot of staff from the Rockets with him with that opportunity. And that opened up an opportunity in the scouting department. And I got a call from Dennis Lindsay, and he and I had stayed in touch the whole time. And he said, "You're ready, and I've got an opportunity for you, entry level scout with the Houston Rockets." And the timing couldn't have been better, man, because at that point, I thought I was going to have to go into the real world and do some real work. But I was fortunate that the sacrifices, the choices that I made opened up an opportunity and allowed me to join the Houston Rockets on a full-time basis on the basketball operations side.
Fast forward now to Minnesota. I even wonder this myself, Gersson, but what's the day-to-day responsibilities of someone in your position? What's the combination of how much are you on the phone? How much are you talking to players and staff? Are you watching tape? There's got to be a lot of different things that go on. And I wonder from a time management perspective, how you get it done.
No, there's a lot that goes on. Fortunately, I have a great group of staff that work alongside me to make sure that everything's done on a day-by-day basis. But it's realistically, Jordan, I can't say it another way. It's what I dreamed about, man. It's the opportunity to work with a head coach and his staff, an opportunity to work with an executive staff, to make sure that our vision is coming to fruition. And it's nothing in life that's good is easy, as we all know. And in Minnesota, we're on a mission to turn this program into a winning program and to have the highest level of success. But that takes time and effort. And a day-to-day operation encumbers everything. I'm obviously watching tape and watching last night's game, where I'm watching draft prospect, trade prospect, free agent prospects pretty regularly. But a lot of it, especially now in this pandemic, there's a lot of communication that's important. As a group, and a basketball operations group, from myself to the coach and the staff, from myself to the players, you need to have that clear line of communication. You need to have as much high-level interaction, safe interaction as we can. But these are tough times, and you got to create a bond as an organization that you're connected, you're committed, and you're doing everything possible to get through these difficult times and make sure that we're continuing our vision of building this organization. But every day is different depending on where we're at. Today we're in San Antonio, Texas. Tomorrow we'll be playing a game, but a lot of time on the phone, a lot of time with staff, as much time as I can with our coaches and our players, because there's nothing like having that face-to-face communication. There's nothing like being on the same page with those guys through the good and through the bad, and growing and developing together, which to me is very important. I mean, you've talked about my background, Jordan. I'm a family guy. I can't be anybody else. I can't be any other executive. I can't be any other person. I'm big on family. I'm big on taking care of our players. I'm big on being innovative, and I'm big on making sure that we're doing everything possible to make this a championship organization.
Coming from Houston, where two things stand out. You won a lot of games, and being with Daryl as well, you're talking about an analytics-driven organization. and you go to Minnesota now. Has anything changed for you in this role? Because as you're trying to build a winner, has it changed going from Houston to here, even though you're in a different position? I mean, from a philosophical standpoint.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question, Jordan. The reality of it is, uh, my individual fingerprint is on it in a way where, I was around a lot of great people in Houston, including Daryl, Dennis, Carol Dawson, Rudy Tomjanovich, unbelievable group of coaches, Jeff Van Gundy, Rick Adelman, Kevin McHale, Mike D'Antoni, a lot of guys that I learned a lot from. But one of the things that I really enjoyed is there's not one way of doing it. And, my background, I'm more of a basketball guy, but having been through the trailblazing period of analytics that Daryl led, I learned a lot from that. And I wouldn't say my approach is Daryl's approach, or is his approach my approach, but my ability to balance the basketball with the analytics, the process with the people is something that makes me different and something that I enjoy. I took a lot from a lot of those guys because there's a lot of greatness there and we're putting it together. But here in Minnesota, it's different. It's a different environment. It's a different program. There's different players. There's different pieces in play, and we have to personalize it. And I want to wrap it around our players, the city, the market, the fans, and the organization. And that takes time and effort, but I'm excited and I'm proud of the work that we're doing.
I talked about your dad earlier, Gersson. He gave you a mandate, I believe, when you were a young man. Can you explain that and the impact it's had on you even today?
Yeah, I'm the oldest of four boys, and really the impact that he and my mother had on my life is special. Being immigrants in this country, leaving their professional careers, starting over to give us better opportunities and a better future meant a lot to me. But he hammered it home, Jordan. He was like, not only is it my opportunity, but it's also my responsibility for myself as a leader of my three younger brothers. It's on all of us to do better. And as much as they sacrifice the opportunity to be here and to do more is something that I take personally from a family aspect, and also professionally. Like for me, being the first Latino in this role is incredibly important, not just for me, but there should be more. And I have to do my part. I'm in a position now where I can open doors, I can provide opportunities, and I can do things for others that others did for me. And not just Latinos, but people of different backgrounds and different approaches.
You just said something that stands out, and I think it's an important thing to recognize, especially when you're in a position of having others around you look up to you, which is recognizing that I don't have all the answers. It's okay not to be it's okay for me not to always be the smartest person in the room. I have to be okay with these things and at times even embrace it. And I would imagine in basketball, which is such a diverse world as it is, and you have so many young men, I would imagine that it's even more important for you.
Absolutely, Jordan. For us, we want to have an environment where, number one, there's humility, but number two, there's expertise. And I mean that in terms of challenging each other. We have to be super creative in the market we're in the situation we're in. We have to create advantages and opportunities from the resources that we have. And our biggest resources are people. It's our people on the court who are our players and the people in the basketball operations that allow us to bring this program together. And a lot of that is just understanding that not one person has all the answers.
Have you had a professional mentor, Gersson, that has instilled some of these values and thoughts?
Yeah, I would say, a combination, but primarily Dennis has been with me throughout. He's a great friend, and he's got an unbelievable career that he's had now at Utah with the organization. Yeah. And he's always been a great mentor. But Carol Dawson's, Rudy Tomjanovich, one guy I looked up to, Jordan, and I said baseball was my first love. And as I really got into it young, one of the things that motivated me to be a GM, to run a team, was seeing Omar Minaya take over the Expos and the Mets. during the 90s there. And a guy that, from afar, I saw somebody that looked like me, that had a similar background than me, have success and have the opportunity to do that. And I'm fortunate now, through some mutual friends, Omar and I have gotten really close. And he's a big hoops head. His son plays at South Carolina. So just talking through things, and there's a lot of great minds in sports, and the more we can learn, the more we can grow, the more we can understand how others do it.
There's very few things that I write down like consciously, like I want to remember this, but you said something that I wrote down and have subsequently tried to apply to my life. You said to question the norm. Now, I don't know if that was a piece of advice you received, Gersson, or just years of experience, but when you say to question the norm, what do you mean by that?
I think I'm a living example of questioning the norm, Jordan. I'm a kid from Bogota, Colombia, who didn't know basketball from Adam growing up, but found a sport he loved and was passionate, and was blessed enough with great people and opportunities to help me where I'm at today. But you have to find creative ways, new ways, different ways, effective ways to do things, and that might be putting a team together. It might be development work. It might be offense, defense, whatever the case may be. But, we don't have the biggest resources. We're not in the biggest markets. And because of that, we have to compete with some of those
Yeah.
teams. And you have to find efficiency. You have to find strategy, and you have to find ways to connect the dots at a level that will allow you to compete with bigger organizations.
Al Horford's talked a lot about you and the mentorship you've had with him. You share these backgrounds with these young Latino players. I know you talked as well about wanting to be a Carlos Arroyo type of player. I don't know how true that is, but the reason I'm bringing this up is have young Latino men, not just in the NBA, but I guess professional athletes, men and women, come to you for pieces of advice.
That's one of the most fulfilling part of my job, Jordan. And it's whether it's basketball players or other sports, there's that bond. And that's the great thing about sports, that it unites
Yeah.
the world and makes it smaller. But no, a guy like Al means a lot to me. Gravis Vasquez,
Yeah.
players that never make it to the NBA, I give them encouragement and tell them, hey, playing basketball was one part of it, but coaching, scouting, being involved with the sport is another part of it. Guys in other sports, I mean, my affinity for baseball and football, soccer unites us all, and that's been very fulfilling. But in my role, as the head of Basketball Without Borders Americas through Kim Mahoney, I've been able to be a mentor to current players, future players, and that's something that means a lot to me, because I'm in this role to give back, to help, and to further the sport, and that's been one of the most meaningful ways that I've been able to do it.
So, Gersson, I wanted to ask you the best piece of advice that you've received that maybe you've passed on, and certainly something that you use and implement day to day.
So when I get an opportunity to talk to individuals or to groups, something I'd love leaving with them, because it's impacted me personally, is passion, purpose, and process. And number one is identifying what's your passion. Life is too short, as we all know all too often these days, but what's the thing that keeps you up at night? What's the thing that you would do for free? What's the thing that makes you happy? I think the ability to identify that is incredibly important for purpose, meaning, and fulfillment. And then, in terms of purpose, we only have so much time. We only have so much resources. We only have so much availability. You got to make it count. How you do anything is how you do everything. And that comes in terms of life and purpose and career. And then the last one is process. There's ups and downs, peaks and valleys, and progress takes time. And understanding that, really recognizing that anything in life is hard, that anything you got to go through, it's going to take time and challenges and commitment, is something that's important to all of us. But without those three perspectives, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And it's the things that allow anybody to really fulfill their passion, their purpose, if they're willing to go through the process.
Well, Gersson, I want to thank you for taking the time here on Game Plan. You're going to have some success, some failures. It always happens. I feel like you have the great understanding of attacking it regardless of what happens based on what you said today. So thank you so much.
The pleasure's all mine, Jordan. Really enjoyed the conversation and appreciate you having me on.